On this episode of This Week in the Open Mic Universe, we look back at week 2 of March on our road to WrestleMania. Kicking things off on Raw, we had tag team action. Ricochet and Bobby Lashley taking on Pretty Deadly. As you can see, a little bit of miscommunication between the two. Maybe the two not on the same page, and that would come back to really bite them in this one, as we've kind of seen Ricochet on a downward trend as of late. He had that unbelievable beatdown at the hands of Gunther at Elimination Chamber. And the bad luck, or whatever you want to call it, for Ricochet just keeps on coming. Eats a clothesline there from Lashley by accident. Lashley tossed out of the ring. But maybe the overconfidence of Ricochet kind of coming into play here is Pretty Deadly able to get the win. Not sure what's going on with Ricochet, but whatever it is, it's now carrying over and affecting our United States champion, Bobby Lashley. Then next up, we had cruiserweight action here on Raw, and it was Axiom taking on Wes Lee. Axiom with the 1-2-3 and coming away with the victory here on Raw. Then it was Alexa Bliss and Cora Jade in action. Cora coming off her unsuccessful cash-in of her Money in the Bank briefcase just last week on SmackDown. Thought she was catching Bianca at a great time for her, as Bianca had just finished up a very intense battle with Asuka. Unfortunately for her, that cash-in was unsuccessful, and her losing continues as Alexa picks up the win. Then we saw the Mad Dragon, Ilya Dragunov, taking on Trick Williams. We don't see Trick a whole lot in singles action. Usually he's in tag team action with Carmelo Hayes. But after his showing here against Ilya Dragunov, Trick Williams may have earned himself some more singles matches, as he really brought it to the Mad Dragon. Lots of athleticism both in and outside the ring. And when it was all said and done, Trick Williams coming away with an upset victory, I would say, here on Raw, as he defeats Ilya Dragunov. Great performance from him. And then it was our European champion in action, as we saw last week, viciously attacked after his victory by Gunther. Gunther using that European championship in that attack. Comes back this week, gets Montez Ford one-on-one. And again, KO putting up a great performance. Ford, we've seen some great flashes in singles action from Ford. But here in the end, it would be KO hitting the stunner, getting the 1-2-3, and coming away with another victory. But that wouldn't be it, as the ring general would make his presence known again. The lights would go down, and when they would come up, Gunther in the ring with Kevin Owens. We can announce that these two will meet at WrestleMania for Owens' European Championship. Another match we thought was looking like it was going to be set in stone for WrestleMania, Imperium being challenged by the Usos. The Usos, though, attacked on SmackDown by the debuting Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. They would attack Imperium here. We did find out from Paul Heyman that attack was actually greenlit from the Tribal Chief himself. He was not happy that the Usos did not get his permission before challenging Imperium. Then we moved over to Nitro, where we had second round action for our qualifying tournament to determine who would head on to WrestleMania to take on the New Day for the WCW Tag Team Championships. First match here of round 2, the Creeds taking on the Viking Raiders. Both teams with great showings in round 1. This one would go back and forth. Very, very tough matchup. You're looking at two teams that are not an easy out by any means. Unfortunately, the feel-good story, the underdog story of the Creeds based on their round 1 performance would not continue, as the Viking Raiders proved to be too much for Brutus and Julius, as Eric would hook the leg and get the 1-2-3. The Viking Raiders moving on to the finals. They will take on the winners of either the Brawling Brutes or the OC, who would meet later on in the night here on Nitro. Then we had JD McDonough and Dexter Loomis in action. But midway through this match, they would be greeted by a special appearance by Brock Lesnar. Brock coming in and laying waste to both competitors. Raw dodged a bullet by not having an appearance by Brock, but he showed up again here on Nitro and made his presence known. Then we had Natalya in action. She would be taking on Tegan Nox. This one, though, not a whole lot to it. The action would spill to the outside. Natalya able to get back in before the referee's count of 10. Tegan Nox, unfortunately, unable to do so. Natalya gets the count-out win. Then, our WCW television champion in action, Dragon Lee, taking on Omos. Dragon Lee, if you'll remember last week, losing to Grayson Waller after a sneak attack by Shinsuke Nakamura. Nakamura attacking Dragon Lee on his way to the ring. And the beginning of this one, Dragon Lee looking really strong. We saw a lot of the aerial attacks, a lot of speed. But once Omos gets his hands on you, the speed doesn't matter. And Omos coming away with the 1-2-3. And then to add insult to injury, Shinsuke Nakamura would show up on the stage, kind of taunt Dragon Lee. These two will meet at WrestleMania for Dragon Lee's WCW television title. Then it was time for our second round qualifying match between the OC and the Brawling Brutes. OC, former 3-time WCW tag team champions. Brawling Brutes still looking for their first tag team title run. This one, we saw back and forth action from both teams. Both teams round one with very impressive performances and deciding victories. This one, though, we see Sheamus here with a big slam to Carl Anderson. An impressive show of strength here from Ridge Holland. And this one went back and forth. It kind of was a toss-up. Didn't really know which way it was going to go, who was going to head on to the finals to take on the Viking Raiders with the opportunity at the New Day at WrestleMania. But here it would be the Brutes with kind of the nail in the coffin as they would put down Luke Gallows for the 3 count. The Brawling Brutes moving on to the finals. They would meet the Viking Raiders later this week on Thunder. Then in our main event, it was The Miz and Rey Mysterio. We saw last week, coming off of the Elimination Chamber, Rey earning his opportunity to take on AJ Styles for the WCW World Heavyweight title at WrestleMania. We saw Rey show up in the middle of AJ's match to distract him. This time, AJ didn't come out, but his music did play, did pull Rey's focus and attention away from The Miz. And in the end, that distraction ended up, I would say, aiding The Miz, as the skull-crushing finale would not be what put Rey down, but Miz still able to get the 1-2-3. Maybe thanks in part to our WCW World Heavyweight Champion, AJ Styles. Then it was time for Thunder, and our opening match of Thunder would see Otis taking on Karrion Kross. It's not been a great couple of months for Alpha Academy as a whole since losing the WCW Tag Team Championships at the Royal Rumble. But Otis did look to make the most of his opportunity here against Kross. These two had a great match going back and forth. We saw near falls. We saw a lot of false finishes. And Otis, with a big slam there, went for a cover. Wouldn't be enough to get the 3 count there. But we did see one of Otis's patented worms. And that would prove to be all he would need to get the 1-2-3 and pick up a huge victory for himself here on Thunder. And then we saw Raquel Rodriguez in action taking on Indy Hartwell. Really made quick work of this one. Wasn't much of a match. Raquel coming off of her pretty one-sided victory at Elimination Chamber against Zelina Vega. Raquel ready to move on, done with Zelina. But apparently Zelina not done with Raquel, as she would enter the ring after the match and attack her with a kendo stick. And it looks like, at least according to Zelina Vega, this story is not finished. Then we would see Bronson Reed in action. He would pick up a victory against Braun Breaker. Reed, who stepped up last week and accepted the challenge of Drew McIntyre for his WCW United States Championship. And then we would see the other half of the Alpha Academy, Chad Gable, in action. He would be taking on Finn Balor. Like we talked about earlier with Otis, Alpha Academy in kind of a rut the last few months coming out of the Royal Rumble. And while it was a great night for Otis having a great performance to kick off Thunder, Gable would lose again here. But after the match, he was presented with a pretty unique opportunity as the Hall of Famer, the Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle, who kind of feels that Gable is not really living up to his potential. He offered him a great opportunity at WrestleMania, a match with him in a submission match, which could be a career-altering opportunity for Chad Gable. Then we saw Asuka and Tiffany Stratton in action. Asuka, who is heading to WrestleMania to challenge Rhea Ripley for her WCW Women's Championship. Rhea, making her presence known here at ringside, did slightly help Tiffany Stratton for a little bit, but in the end, Asuka able to weather the storm and pick up the victory. And she just keeps building up that momentum as she heads towards WrestleMania. And then in our main event of Thunder, we saw the finals of our qualifying tag team tournament. The winners get an opportunity at the New Day at WrestleMania for the WCW Tag Team Championships. Former one-time WCW Tag Champs, the Viking Raiders, who've looked great throughout this whole tournament. Same with the Brawling Brutes. Sheamus and Ridge trying to establish themselves as a tag team, and the Brutes would go back to the well again with the exact same move that got them the victory to move into the finals. Would also be the same move that got them into that tag title match at WrestleMania. And after this one, we would see Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods come out and congratulate the new challengers, the team that will go on to try to take those belts from the New Day. Great opportunity for Sheamus and Ridge. And they beat some really good teams to get here. We'll see how they fare when they go up against the New Day at WrestleMania. And then it was time for SmackDown. And we kicked things off here on SmackDown with the announcement that Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa would get that shot against Imperium. And Imperium would return the favor after the attack that they got on Raw. Then Ilya Dragunov and Carmelo Hayes in action. Hayes, following in line with his Trick Mello partner, Trick Williams, getting the victory against Dragunov. And then Dragunov, the next victim of Brock Lesnar. We can announce Dragunov begged and pleaded with the officials from the WWE to reinstate Brock Lesnar. They have reinstated him and given Ilya Dragunov a match against Brock on next week's Raw. Can't wait to see that. Can't wait to see Brock back in the ring. Then we had Roxanne Perez picking up the victory against Carmella. Then in Cruiserweight action, we had Johnny Gargano taking on Nathan Frazier. Kind of similar to what we saw on Raw between Axiom and Wesley. Great match. A lot of great moves. These two went back and forth. Really showcasing their deep arsenal and their deep moveset. Unfortunately for Johnny Wrestling, he would fall victim to Frazier's Phoenix Splash, and that would be enough to get the 1-2-3. Nathan Frazier picking up a huge victory here on SmackDown. And then Becky Lynch in action against Shayna Baszler. Lynch, like we all know, headed to WrestleMania to take on Bianca Belair for the WWE Women's Championship. And Becky here trying to get a tap, but Shayna would do the same. But watch what Becky does here. She gets out of the move, reverses it into a pinfall, and is able to get the 1-2-3. Becky Lynch picks up the win. And then Bianca shows up to congratulate her on her victory. And these two are going to meet here very, very soon. We're just a couple weeks away. Becky and Bianca for the WWE Women's Championship. And then we saw the Tribal Chief in our main event. We don't see Roman too often on any of the TV shows. Usually it's just the pay-per-views. But he would compete here in our main event of SmackDown. And his opponent, a guy that he's got a lot of history with and a guy that is actually challenging Solo Sikoa for the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania. These two would meet here in the main event. We would go back and forth. But we saw Roman kind of show up last week on SmackDown in the middle of LA Knight's match. And here tonight, we saw LA Knight return the favor. Knight would come out, distract Reigns, and that would be just the opening the Viper would need. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're enjoying the content, be sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. And if you want to watch the action live and in real time, why not join us over on Twitch, twitch.tv/Open Mic Network. Thanks again, and we'll see you guys next time.